All right, so let's see. Yes, question. Yeah, let's have questions.
Yeah, all right, so okay. Yeah. I'm sorry to be asking my second question when other people haven't even asked their first question, but okay. All right, so you summed up at the end there the bottom line, right? And that was a real affirmation. And I wanted to see if this summarization that I've my brain can't stop synthesizing things down, but it seems that what's happened is that you are living from an assumption, you're being lived from an assumption that plays out as an outlooking, as you're like outlooking your eyes, that it's not me, it's like this non-physical not me, and this is an assumed identity, if you will, that you're outlooking, and it kind of transforms this carnal dream into this kind of non-physical, more benign thing, and it becomes, you get in that kind of groove you were talking about. That's kind of what's going on, right? Well, that's a real affirmation. Thank you.
Yeah, because the thing is, there's nothing that needs to be corrected, except the need to be corrected. Really. I mean, literally, it sounds tricky and corny, but it's true. Now, you can't get there because because it's true, because you've never left it. See, that's the dilemma, because the selfing is a very stubborn assumption. And let's say, like if people have listened to us before, I forget a lot of the ones we've used, but there's one we use with is the epiphany, when someone experiences or has an epiphany. Those aren't the right way of saying it. You can't say it the right way with language, but I would say, let's say an intervention, a vertical intervention in a horizontal story. And so let's say, and of course there's no sense of you or time there when you're engaged in that, but then the end of it seemingly coincides with the thoughts from having an epiphany, yeah? So what you can't see, because it seems to be very, very fast, the epiphany offers you a great opportunity, because you can see the guest that's saying it's the host from afar, because you've had a space where it hasn't intervened. So when it first introduces itself, it's easy in a way to see, yeah? So like with me, one time I was in, of course it was, very few people have it in like Hoboken, New Jersey. Usually it's a nice place. Like here with a waterfall, you have an epiphany. So whatever, I had an event, whatever you call it, in Bali once, very nice. We were driving around the island, and this village told us there was a waterfall, and I like waterfalls, so we hiked in there. Very thin waterfall with a tree at the top. And I got under the water, had a big water hole, and then this thing. And I could feel something, and so I said yes to it, not me, but there was a yes, and then something occurred. And, it was nice because I had witnesses, the woman I was with and her kid. So I just went, did whatever was happening. I don't remember it all much, but a time had passed. And I remember I was sitting, just blissing out, whatever. And all your facial structure is of time, like it gets all erased. You're like a kid again, stuff like that. And then I could hear a voice. It sounded like it was from far away, like behind this rock. So I was sitting there. I didn't know whose voice it was or anything. Just heard a voice, very low. And then it got a little louder, and it seemed to be moving towards me. So I was hearing this voice, and I was hearing it, and then it was speaking, seemingly sort of like at me, to me, and then there was a point where it crossed where it started speaking as me. So I saw the selfing, because an epiphany is a nice whack, but it's like breaking a thermostat. The mercury goes, but then just regroups. Selfing regroups very quickly to claim its own absence. So it will. That which is absent will arise and claim to be the one who had the epiphany. Guaranteed. That's what it does, yeah? But this is a big example because you had a very distinct feeling in time not to be of time. And so when it shows up, it's very, very obvious. So it was talking, and it was almost like talking as, to me, and then as me. And then that whole little cloak came on, which was fine. I saw the visuals still for hours, beautiful drops on leaves, those types. But my girlfriend and the son quickly forgot I was absent, and Paul was there, and we went around Bali, yeah? So another time, I'm in the water surfing, and I boogie boarded, and I was on a wave, and I went to this area, and I went under, just to get off the wave. I went under, and I hit my head on a rock underneath, and I'd had a concussion in Australia years ago. So I hit my head, and my body shut down, like my brain. So the nerves shut down, and I couldn't move my arms or legs. So luckily I landed on my back because I couldn't move. I was just really, and I spoke, but it was very low. I was asking for help, but no one could hear me. But a guy had been on the same wave and saw something happen to me. So I was there, and it was sort of like a pause. I had no thoughts or anything. And it was like really, it was weird. It was like the edges of the picture was gold, yeah? So this was happening, and they got me on a surfboard, brought me in, and then the paramedics came, and they were cutting the wetsuit off me, and then the selfing appeared, and it had been gone for a little while. And the first thing it says is, I can't afford the ambulance. That's what it said. It said, just die here because I can't afford the ambulance. Really, it's amazing. It revealed quite a lot. And then if you watch when people are riding a bike or something and they start to fall, they try to save the bike. You'll go off the cliff. Or in a car, you're going to wreck, but you hold on to the coffee, It's like really weird. The I spent $4 on this, The value system of the head reveals itself in some very strange moments, but you can see everything about it. You can see what it really values, and it isn't you. It doesn't value at all you. It doesn't. Watch it. So if you see it as something other than you, if it is the act of being identified as, then the antidote would be to see that which you're identified as other, obviously, because that's that. And the thing is, you were never that to begin with, so nothing has to be broken, and then a new thing has to be welded. It's just seemingly so. There's the dreaming of it. You're dreaming that you're something that's impossible for you to be. That's why it's such a beautiful message, because really, in this, the solution, if you're looking from the problem, you need a solution. You need lots of solutions. But if you see the problem from the solution, there is no problem really. So there's no need for a solution. That's how good of a solution it is. It negates its own necessariness, yeah? So, like the Course would always say these cryptic thing, to correct that which was never needed to be corrected. It's always, you're undoing something that was never done. They're always implying, they're trying to give us a sense of this magic trick in time, but nothing ever happened, yeah? It can only seem to be happening to us. Without our engagement, it's seen differently, yeah? So there's the difference between looking from it or seeing it. And that to me is like, there's certain realizations that are claimed. Let's say you have a realization and let's say you meditated a lot and then you're clear, right? You leave the retreat, you're pretty clear, yeah? Or you fasted. I think people get fasting because it's all physical brain. The brain clears up and you're thinking you're more conscious, but clarity is just more available, yeah? So there's a clarity, but there's the mental state still claiming the clarity as you, yeah? So here's the clarity, and then you go, I'm clear. And then, of course, you note that others aren't clear. It usually goes that way. That reinforces how clear you are. And it goes on in this, and these are all safe. You have a lot of realizations. But this message is different, because this message, the aperture opens up, yeah, keeps opening, and then you're seen, yeah, like from here. So you're not looking from here, you're seeing here. From somewhere else, let's just say other. And it has a very strong effect. because it becomes very clear. If I saw it, I can't be it, you know? It's as simple as that. So the aperture here opens up. Self-centeredness is a very fixed aperture. So it's very myopic view. You see everything and how it pertains to you. So in a sense, we're this huge freaking camera with tons of incredible HD lenses, everything. And yet we're looking through like a cheap little brownie camera. Those ones that have a plastic lens, and basically you just pointed and hoped, you know, you couldn't see anything in the finder, you just shot it and then hoped you got a picture. And so here's this incredible camera, and it looks through the brownie, and while looking through the brownie, there's an assumption that it's the brownie, yeah? It's just a sort of mistake, yeah? So now the large camera, still the large camera with HD and everything like that, but it's living as if the way it's seeing through the brownie is its vision, yeah? It's now that large camera seemingly forgets all of its qualities and now becomes identified with the brownie quality. And so, and let's say it's so stubborn that it thinks it's a brownie, but it has a sense of what it is, like this white. So it now starts buying like Nikon lenses to put on the brownie. So it gets like a $5,000 lens, but sticks it on a $20 brownie. Yeah. So it's got like credible, but it's the brownie. It's a brownie overrides the lenses. So you keep getting better, more, but they don't work because you're attaching them to the brownie. So what would happen if you started entertaining? Maybe, just a possibility, you may not be the brownie. I'm not saying entertain that you're this great, unbelievable camera. That doesn't work in my experience. You entertain, I may not be the brownie. So what happens if the big camera entertained is not the brownie, and it's never been the brownie? It doesn't have to get it doesn't have to like pull off the brownie because it's not the brownie. So it just entertains, I'm not the brownie, and then it discovers what's always been there, which is I can fucking see unbelievable this and that. But in this beautiful way of arriving at it, there's no claiming of it. You don't claim to be that seeing. You don't claim, oh, the lens I've put finally worked. I'm seeing clearly. No, it's very clear it has nothing to do with you. So there's no position that's taken, therefore you don't lose a position. Yeah? Just like I am not a teacher, so I don't have to worry about saying fuck or anything like that, because I really, it doesn't matter to me. Seriously. And it's a really bad career choice because I'm meant to be obsolete. Yeah, I can only deliver the mail so many times. You got to read it sooner or later. So you're going to read the invitation and realize, it says party, where, here, when, now. So I'm here. Yeah, I don't have to wait for any more mail. So that's why you better donate this time, because you probably won't see me next year. So my career is ticking. There's only a few more outposts that are still seeking spiritually. But you see the little flavor? So you haven't lost any of the lenses. You haven't lost the HD. None of that. You're just, that HD, that lens is looking through a lousy camera. And you're taking the camera, the camera is causing the vision to seemingly be that way, and you're taking it to be your vision. Though if you moved away, it wouldn't be your vision, and you would see that it was never your vision, nor will it ever be your vision, because it would be clear that you're not the brownie. You don't have to be anything else. You just have to realize you're not the brownie, because ultimately, as the large camera, you'll find out about being the camera. You'll be visibly being the camera, and then the little sensor of the camera, our little bit of sentience, will pick up and go, hey, I'm traveling lighter, and it seems like I've stopped looking for lenses and large cameras because I am the large camera. Yeah? That's sort of how I see it happens and when it plays out. Yeah. Now you can say grace started all that. It doesn't matter because you're still there. Yeah. I would say you're grace. I would say there's nothing precedes you. You're it. So you're the reality. And thinking it has to attain reality. That's what Ramana says, and that thing resonates with me. He says that's the greatest mystery of all, that reality believes it has to attain reality. Yeah, that's it. That's that little heist we've been going over in as many ways as I can say it, you know? And I'm just trying to remember old ways because I have some time to waste. So you can tumble it as many times as you can, and then you can watch, it goes on, yeah? And then, see, this is sort of like spiritual sperm, basically, yeah? Really. We're not a person that has a lot of pauses, and I don't loving gaze people. And, you know, today I would like to walk around quietly and sit because I think we're ready for that. Because we've seen that which is going to arise and claim the sitting or the quiet won't be us, yeah? I think this is what was necessary for people to really sit in stillness. They would need this for a few years and entertain the possibility of being, you know, catching the thief when it starts claiming to be the one sitting in the silence. It's great to sit in silence. There's nothing wrong with it. I've never promoted it because I thought everyone would be under the heist, to tell you the truth. And I think in this little plan, this topic should be addressed for years if it takes that long. Doesn't have to, but at least you get an understanding, so at least you'll know when you're sitting there, you'll see the burglar. Yeah, you'll see it, and then you can just, because people think I've got to stop sitting or silence, I know I don't need to meditate anymore. You don't need to meditate, but you meditated all day. You really are, aren't you? There's something that's on completely, and so you know, just sitting there. I mean, I feel like that which would take hours to get to is available right now. You know, you just sit here, you go, yeah? So I don't see throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, I don't. I see it in the beginning because you got to wean people off of their belief they're going to arrive at somewhere. I believe because I don't think it's true. I don't. So, and if you don't get popular, which I'm not, and if you don't get organized, which we're not, you can stay true to the point. Because, you know, like Ramana supposedly had a great story where a lot of his people that had been with him for a while were sitting around talking and asking themselves, you know, do you think are we able to teach? So they asked him, he came in, and he said, yeah, all of you can teach, but I don't recommend it. So they were sort of like, what? He says, and they go, why? He says, compassion. And they were still confused, and they said, listen, what will happen is you'll be sitting in front of a group, and you'll feel compassion for the people, and you'll dilute the message. You'll make the message palpable to the system instead of fucking, they're not negating the system. Yeah? You'll, okay, here. Yeah? And you'll dilute the message. Now, in our situation, we can't dilute the message because I don't have any demands. I don't have intensives. I don't have retreats. I don't have any fucking ongoing sequential subscription you have to fill. It's just basically an invitation. I come and I offer it to you, and there you go. And I'm more than happy to offer it as many times or no time. Yeah, but there's nothing to build on. You just get nothing. Nothing and nothing and nothing. Yeah, and if you stick with it, you'll see it as something and everything, I believe. Tell you the truth. It's sort of like, you know, in the desert, there's that big tortoise, and the coyote wants to get it, but the tortoise shrinks in, and the coyote spends about 2 minutes with intense interest, and it realizes it can't get the fucking meat, so he leaves. That's like what non-duality is like. Yeah, the head will try to make it something, you know, trying to live like a non-self as a self. It'll get bored because nothing will work. Non-duality will not work for you. It won't. Yeah? And then maybe you get bored of it, and that's when it becomes truly available. Because it has nothing to do with your vested interest. It's better that you lose interest. Yeah? lose interest in all the looking for it is actually the best move. Yeah? And it's not a concentrated or fixed look, it's a more of a dispersed way of traveling. Like the lens is open wide and shit comes in, but all the shit throughout the day never emphasizes the space that was all in. So that's what you live with all day. Every day is just space that shit moves through. Yeah? It's really cool in a lot of ways. So I thought it would be concentration and I have to have an interest and intent, but it's really a dispersal of all that. And then the interest will be directed in a different way. And my belief of what people call presence is just undirected interest and attention. It's not being directed by the mental state. Yeah. So when it's in the pause, and then to me, that's what I am, is pause. Yeah. So you sense it, and then you see yourself showing up in your own life. Yeah, you see yourself as no face showing up. Yeah. And after it shows up, you realize that's what you've been missing the whole time. You've just been really missing you. You thought it was others, but it's been you. You haven't been here seemingly. Yeah, you have, but seemingly you haven't. So, where was I with all that?
Hoboken.
Hoboken. I've been to Hoboken. Now, if I had a 10-day retreat in Hoboken, very few people would sign up. But I think it would be a very awakening retreat. If you could survive Hoboken. Yeah, you can go to those magazines, all right, 10-day retreat, Costa Rica, 10-day retreat, Hawaii, 10-day retreat, Hoboken. I don't think so. But it may be the best retreat. Every night you'd have to retreat off the street, first of all. So you survive, but if you survived, yeah. So yeah. You see, you get the gist of it, eh? Trying to, it's more of a flavor, trying to get across. And the seeking isn't making it not so, yeah? Because the seeking will fail you, and that's how it serves you. So you can't go wrong. Yeah? The 800 book, you'll think, never worked, and that's what worked about the 800 books. They led you to a place where you realized nothing works. That's a great value. So, you know what I mean? There's no way we're winning and losing. There isn't. Because there just isn't. So that takes all the pressure off. Like, it's like being on a plane, you know, you're going to get there at the same time. Even if you rush into the front of the plane, you're still going to arrive at the same time. Yeah, it's that type of thing. I think that's a very relaxing way of entertaining. And I'm really, the open, you'll see a whole lot more when the lens is open than when it's focused. When it's focused, you miss out a huge amount. You do. This opens, this works. So what's another way? Does anyone know any of my golden oldies? I can't use the poopa scooper. It's one of my favorites. The hallway of shitting fans? No, hallway and shitting fans I like.
Common cold and pneumonia.
The common cold and pneumonia. Did I have that one? Did I? Yeah. What was that like? Don't even recognize that one. The common cold. Oh, the misdiagnosing. Oh, yeah, the misdiagnosing. That's a good one, yeah. So, you know, the misdiagnosing would be, you know, you think you have a cold, so you buy tons of cold medicine, you take it religiously, and you expect some results, and you get some, but not the basic dilemma doesn't change because you have the flu, yeah? So it's basically, it's the diagnosis. Just like if I had a rash and I didn't know what it was and I bought 10 different ointments and none of them worked, then the one that worked, I would read it and it would tell me the ointment was psoriasis. Because it worked, I realized I've had psoriasis. Yes? So it's like reverse engineering. So you entertain this possibility that you're not that, and then you realize it was that was causing the lack of relief in one's life. Your wanting to get relief was the biggest lack of relief. Yeah? Once you get the flavor of it, you'll see it tons of times like that. because you catch its logic. Once you catch its logic, it stops it to kick into the next click. You hear the first click, but it doesn't keep clicking. That's how it gets momentum. You see the first click, and then the others, it can't connect, right? It's like interrupting a slinky. The slinky's movement is what brings this other. So there's an interruption, so this can't come up. And then it stops the whole slinky, evolution. Droom, 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 yes? That's us. That's us seeing it, yeah? Seeing it as an activity, and it stops. And you get a free sample. Because when it stops, you continue. Yeah? When that which is representing you completely, the only thing you're going by, your memories, perceptions, that when it stops, you still continue. These have very big impacts on one. It may not show up immediately. You may not have what you call an awakening. But hey, I know a lot of people who thought they woke up and now they're unawake, which is fucking a real hellish situation. They're very surprised because it seems to have changed. But there was no one who was awake. An awakening is not an event. You can't have an event of what's always happening. That's always happening. Yeah? And it's not an experience. No way. If it's an experience, it means there's two things. Yeah? So it's sort of a lot of not. And when you winnow it all down, you're left with what you are. And you've always been that. Yeah? So you arrive at where you never left. So therefore all the longing and the missing out is dismissed, and it's all, yeah. Yeah, so any questions? I know someone in the back has a famous questioner in my past history is here. So let's see if the questions are better than the other ones she's had in the past. Let's grade her question.
Okay. Everybody get their numbers ready. Well, I had a question, and then I realized it was coming from selfing. And when I realized that, then the question just disappeared. So the question from selfing was, okay, so I get tricked and I fall back into selfing. So what do I need to do to not do that? And I realized, well, that's selfing, right? And the answer.
That idea that you got tricked is the self.
Yeah, both of them.
There's tricking, but you never got tricked.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the selfing goes on. It isn't about the selfing stopping. It's about what it produces not gaining traction, which is the sense of being the one. That's all it is. Yeah. And you can see it all in our language all day. That sense of my is us. It's like the sense of being the one, being strengthened by claiming what comes after. So now problems are mine, girlfriend's mine, body mine, time mine, money mine, yeah? They're all things we all experience, but the my is where the weight comes from, yeah? Yes, if you see it, I'm telling you, the one quality that we can rely on is our seeing, yeah? Let the light reveal you what's happening. You are that light, you know? Don't let a reflection of the light talk to you about light. You are the light. Yeah? Let's see what happens. And it will download information. And if it's necessary or if it's going to be used like as a speaking to someone, it'll be translated into words. If not, it'll just be energy. Yeah? Yeah. But it will make an impression on that which you're not. It'll allow it to travel lighter. And then that's the dream of what you're not, really. Just wants to be content and satisfied. Maybe have a purpose. You know, maybe my purpose is to get another latte today. Not a big purpose, but hey, it's a purpose, yeah. That it does well. It's like oil in the Toyota. It likes it. This idea of there's nothing to do and that's not helpful. The action, and then if you why do you want to try to convince that which is coded to believe it has free will, that it doesn't have free will? Just realize you're not that which thinks it has free will. That's the freedom, yeah? Again, if you are a big believer in Ram Maharshi, he says it. He says, hey, if the individuality is there, there's free will. Yeah? Then go do thy will be done. Live that way, yeah? But this idea of that which really believes it has free will, trying to convince itself it doesn't have free will, I think it's pointless, yeah? When people ask me about free will, I say, well, if you feel like you have it, do the next right thing. That's all. Yeah? It's no big deal about it. Why do we get into these mythical fucking conversations? It's all mind candy. Just go right to the point. Is there anyone that has any of this stuff? Yeah? See. If there isn't, you'll travel lighter with it all. Yeah. Another question? We got some time, so. Or just throw an old golden oldie out. I'll be like a musician. Play Heaven's Door. All right. No.
Well, I feel a little bit like her, that this question is born out of selfing, but I still feel like I need to ask the question. And by the way, I just want to thank you, because I feel like or many hits are being received today. But I have magnified something in my life to a point that it has become this knot of selfing. And so that's one of the things that I'm really taking some hits on today. And it's, to put it in one word, it's grief. So the question, so what keeps happening is I keep taking these hits, and then there's some voice in me that says, yeah, but this is an exception. This is so big, it's an exception, man. You can't. And it's like I lost someone very important to me. And it's like all that nostalgia and regret and guilt, magnifies in there. I see through it when I take that hit. I'm seeing right through it. And I see how the selfing is manufacturing this sort of. But so I guess what I wanted to ask you, I'm shaking right now, just is grief, is it akin to an addiction? Is it a kind of resentment or resentimizing, if that's a word? Is that what it's? Is that what it is?
It's what we make it. Yeah. It's what we make it. Grief is what precedes it. If it's you that's grieving, then the possibility of an addiction arises, because the mental state, may get a bigger hit of itself by being the one who's grieving. So, yes, you see? Everything in a way is all the meaning we give it. So grief is there, and then the mental state will arise and try to claim it, and then there's the activity of a life and living through it, yeah? And they will be vying, and the grief is going to tell you, it's going to say that it already stole the grief and has been fucking with you for years, but that was made up right now, yeah? How it makes a presupposing that it was the one that's doing it. Don't fucking buy its fishing expeditions, yeah? Because if you take that one bite, suddenly you become the historical fish. First you feel like the fish, then you feel like you've been a fish a long time. It's all made up right now. Right now. It's arising. So grief is sometimes beautiful. I like sadness a lot, in a lot of ways. It's very rich, and it's an uncoiling of the action figure. The action figure has taken a lot of blows. It's like a bumper that's inherited a lot of blows, and I love it when you have those cathartic events where it releases, yeah, and the energy gets a chance to reconfigure, yeah? It's much easier for grief to go through that process if it isn't yours, yeah? So, just like pain and suffering are different. What's pain? What's suffering but pain extended in time, basically? The mental state claims to be the one who has the pain, says, I've had it, I'm going to have it, and then it's unbearable. Something you could have felt through that day, you're not going to feel through that well if it's going to be forever. And that's what the head does, yeah? It magnifies, it just claims and does its little maneuvers. You can't expect it to change its ways. It's like that old story of the lady saving the snake and then getting a little shoebox and a little, kitchen towel for its little blanket and feeding with an eyedropper, and then walking around and petting it, and then the snake bites her, and she goes, oh, Mr. Snake, why did you bite me? I've been so good to you. Hey, I'm a snake. The mental process is more like a parasitical movement. It wants to neuter life and give you an interpretation of it based on the idea of being a you. We become identified with it, the A drops off, now it's you, and then there's a coronation of that you, and it's exalted to the level of me. And there you have it. Yeah? And now it's you having grief is much different than grief. Yeah? Because you shouldn't be having grief, or you have the right to be grief. All this just goes off, on, it's odd. It's like fucking ad nauseum. It just goes on and on and on and on. But the thing is, it has to present the hook. That's why it seems like it's talking to you so much. It's trying to convince you to buy the story. Because once you buy the story, there's a feeling you've been the story for a long fucking time. That's the story. The story is a historical presupposing. You buy it now, but you feel like you've been in it for freaking years. That's what it does. It's like the magic trick of the mental state. If you see it, that's the one quality it cannot get rid of. It cannot, no matter how much you think about what's not happening, it does not erase what's happening. In what's not happening, so much shit can happen. You can have cancer when you don't, tons of things. But in what's happening, there's only one thing that's happening. Now, what's not happening is much more entertaining. But one thing is, it doesn't have the one quality what's happening has, which is it's happening. And what's happening can override all that's in what's not happening because of that one quality of what's happening. Yeah? Rest there, I mean, just as a report, I never get gypped, ever. I'm in every second of my life. All day, all night. Completely. No me got in it. I didn't get into it. I haven't got out of it. It's just on, incessantly on. That's what's happening. The mental state, reacting to that, doesn't want to be fucking on. It doesn't. It cannot. Its play cannot extend in the light of seeing. It's seen as a charade as it is. It has to hide it in yesterday and tomorrow. That's why we're so fucking preoccupied. Yeah? Just a little touch of what's happening will go a long way in dispelling all the effects of what's not happening. So, there is a solution, The solution informs you. The problem is an activity the solution is engaged with. That's what it is. The solution is engaging with the idea that it's the problem. That's the only thing that could convince the solution is the solution. Nothing else could fool the solution but the solution. Yeah? So, maybe we're all over with that. Maybe we're sick and tired of it. Yeah? Yep.
You talk about self-acceptance of. Could you talk a little bit about radical self-acceptance as a flawed, apparent, separate person that you've believed in your whole life? Now you're getting a glimpse that maybe you're more than that or not that, but still there's this persistent, flawed character that seems to make its appearance a lot. Can you talk about how radically accepting that, or do you think that's an important thing? Can you talk about
Well, it's not it's a byproduct. It's not something you target. If you're not that, there'll be an acceptance of it. Like for me, while I took myself to be this, the urban renewal project was going to continue on forever. Because there's always something I could do to get better and shit. When I finally saw it wasn't me, acceptance came over it. It's really, I mean, it was the greatest day for the action figure. Really, because the giant mental head got off of it. And fucking it can free range now, you know? Yeah, so acceptance to me is a byproduct. It's an effect of something else. And so by seeing what I'm not, I have great acceptance for Paul, which I had no acceptance for Paul before, and therefore no acceptance for others. Now I have acceptance for Paul and others, you know, but not with any effort. I'm just observing it. It's a byproduct. I wouldn't know how to be accepting if I studied it for 30 years. I wouldn't. You know about it by the fruit. It tells you, oh, so this is acceptance, or this is surrender, or this is peace. You come to a new understanding of all this stuff, not by studying it or thinking about it, but direct contact. You know, you understand the word serenity, and you know peace. It's true. All these things they say in AA, those are describing the effects of a mind that's changed, or a psychic change, or a personality shift, or whatever they want to call it, or a spiritual awakening. Just the mind shifted. It's like the mind rolled over a little bit in the dreaming and everything changes. Yes? And then this is the expression of it. Now, did the mind change? No, but there was a change in mind. Yeah? Just like there's realizations in mind. Do you ever realize mind? No. There's zillions of realizations in mind. The realization in mind goes off, and it's almost like throwing a stone in a well that you never hear a response. So the realization is like an explosion, and what it really does is keeps going, and you never end. You never touch a wall. You never come to a fence. Yeah? So the realization gives you a sense of the hugeness of what we are. Yeah. You can't realize that which is always realized. Always realized is what has realizations. Yeah? Yeah. So yeah, acceptance is, you'll love it when you get it. You will, because, man, Jesus Christ. You know that day when you finally did something when you were a kid, and then from that day on, everything you ever did was accompanied by thought? You know, remember the times when you weren't thinking when you were a kid, and then suddenly there was a point where now there was weird self-reflection, and it just fucking, everything's been dissected and gone over. And I had it when I was young. I used it in my AA story. I was 12 years old. I was walking through the hallway at school. Pretty girl said hello to me. I went home and wondered what she meant by it for 5 hours. This is what happened. It was just ponderous, constantly. Oh, it was just way too much. I had to have a drink, really. I mean, drinking made total sense. I had to get relief from it. I couldn't see it as other, so I had to get relief. I had to drink and use drugs just to get some kind of sense of relief from it, really. You know, to me it was weird because I took it as medicine, what I was doing, but the authorities they thought I was breaking the law, but I didn't see that at all. I needed that relief, and nothing else anyone was offering was giving it to me, and I had to have relief. Yeah, so anytime they punished me, it would only last as long as they had me under control. As soon as I was left to my own devices, I was off and running again. And it looked like it was never going to freaking change. No human power could get me sober. Yet something happened and I was struck sober. Haven't had a strong feeling or an urge or a thought about drinking and using for 30 years almost. That's a damn good solution. Yeah, but I don't stop there. I don't pigeonhole it there. I entertain, what the hell does that represent? I mean, what what? Go off. Let it take you farther. Go right over the periods and all that. Just go and see what it reveals. That something can do for you what you can't do for yourself. Why wouldn't you entertain the possibility of expanding what you can't do for yourself? This makes total sense. Yeah? Now, do you think I have choice or not? No, but if I'm believing I do, I'm going to fucking entertain that. It's funny, this guy said, AA, I really like this. This guy went up to his, in AA we have sponsors, like mentors, that help you with these 12 steps that lead to a recovery from the bondage of self. So, and the drinking and the using are symptoms. They have nothing to do with the real problem, in a way. So he was talking about these defects of character being removed, because let's say these are patterns of contraction, let's say. Or in Hinduism, they call deep mental grooves, like samskaras, right? So there's grooves that tend, let's say you're jealous and stuff like that, and they've sort of haunted your life and relationships. So in AA, we do some writing about it. They get revealed, and then you start seeing them before looking from them. And you ask, and what we do is we ask a higher power to remove them. We become entirely ready, and then we go, hey, and we humbly ask the power to remove it. So he asked his sponsor, says, is this true? Will God or whatever, the higher power, remove my defects of character? So the guy goes, yes, but act accordingly. It's so beautiful. So yes, it's removed, but act like they're removed. Now, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? We don't know, because time doesn't go away. You know what I mean? So you act accordingly as if they're removed, and who knows which comes first? But it's beautiful because it plays with time again. I like playing with time because we are living. The effect of time is so heavy on all of us, and it's like a saddle. Yeah, time doesn't go that way. Time is a construct we're entertaining. Just like if you're doing a job you don't like, it goes on for fucking ever. When you're doing something you love, it goes really fast. Obviously, time is subjective. It has nothing to do with anything called time. It's part of dreaming, self-dreaming. Yeah, self needs to be extended in time because it doesn't exist. So it has to seem to exist in the past and the future. So self and time are synonymous. There is no self without time, and there's no time without self. So, shit, watch it. Watch when you were a kid. There was no time then, was there? You had no fucking idea of next week, did you? I didn't. Got entertained. It grew. And then suddenly, we've entertained something and it becomes our fucking prison. It's amazing. So, yeah. That's that, eh? And that's more questions. We're going to go to 4:30, aren't we? We're going to try our best to go to 4:30. And I could be like other people and let's meditate and fill up a lot of time. You got to be wise to these folks, because if you're on a retreat and you're meditating 13 hours a day, look around the room. They're not in the room. They're probably not sitting with you meditating because they know better, first of all. Have you seen them? I haven't. Never saw them. They're having lattes and whatever. Yeah. So, yes. Any more? I would recommend, though, walk around out there. This place is... If you were going to come up with a place to have a retreat, this would be a freaking good place to have a retreat. It's mind-boggling. But I think you should allow people in the waterfalls. I will. I'm going to after the talk. I have my bathing suit.
What kind of water you want to drink?
No, I won't drink it.
Okay, good.
No, don't worry.
It's got parasites in it.
It has parasites, does it? Oh, no. Now you've ruined the whole event. I can't go in there. So let me ask you a question then, all right? So when what does it mean self can't get out of self? Why would someone warn us? Why would there be a warning about that? Why would there be a warning that what's looking is what you're looking for? They could have said, what's looking, and then had 50 pages of requirements that you would have to fulfill to become what you're looking for. But St. Francis didn't do that. He said, what's looking is what you're looking for. In other words, all the requirements are met based on what's looking. Yeah? The who's that looking for may think it has a lot of, but based on what's looking, it's already met. Because what's looking is what you're looking for. Doesn't that stop everything? Yeah. Because is what's looking really looking? No. I love these statements because they just stop the brain. Something continues. What's that? That continues. If you can find anything prior to that, which is seeing, point it out to me. I don't believe there's anything there. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, yes.
So lately I've had a lot of days where I feel like my body chemistry is all out of whack, and I have feelings of anxiety, and I don't know if it's thoughts leading to emotions leading to the physical, or whether there's something physiological that has nothing to do with anything else. But when that comes up, it looks like I don't have the same choice that I have when I'm feeling kind of normal, my current normal, healthy. And just having, it's like I've kind of bought into the idea that awareness is always aware, and yet I also have this belief that maybe I really can't help it. If I'm, or, like if I'm in a lot of distress for whatever reason, or very tired, if I'm just drowsing, I keep falling asleep when I try to just be more aware and be present with, and do self-inquiry. So,
By the way,
what is
falling asleep when you're doing that stuff.
Why is that great?
Don't you feel great when you fall asleep?
Sometimes I go unconscious for a period of time. I find out it's been a while when I come out of it, and I do feel like a healing has taken place. Other times, I don't feel great.
But thank God you weren't there in there. The only thing that claims the seeing is that which thinks it's awake after the nap, you know what I mean? But in the nap, there was no claiming of anything. Yeah, yeah. Your head comes up, one day it says, oh, I feel good after that. The other time it says, I don't feel good after that. But it's just all fucking hearsay. It wasn't there. You know what I mean? It wasn't there. That was the joy of it. The joy of it was you weren't there. If you were there sleeping, it would suck. It's because it gets forgotten. That's why it's so good. You know? Well, just watch it. See, we're so easy. One day it says the moon's the sun, and the next day the moon's the moon, and we just fucking, all right. So. What was there after when you felt good, and what was there when you felt bad? There was still something there. While there was a big shift of feeling bad from the big shift of feeling good, there was something or nothing that never shifted. That was always there. Yeah? You can rest there just as much as you can rest on the the seesaw of the mental state, which is all agitated, that's the rest, you're agitated, you can rest, you know. There is a prior you to that you, you know. You know where, you felt it, just there you go. And hopefully it will allow you to see what you're not. I mean, you only see what you're not from what you are, yeah? You can understand what you're not from what you're not, but that doesn't necessarily do that much. You can see what you're not from what you are. That's all you can, yeah? And I'm telling you, you're inherently seeing everything from what you are. Apply it to what you're not. We're letting that stake the claim and calling itself us, and then seeing everything from that point. That's a fucking point. There's seeing prior to that. Let your, just don't let it take its presentation. Hear it, all right. You're not feeling good. Yeah, all right. But don't set camp there. You know, just let's see if the wind blows you a little farther back, and then you'll look, see, hey, I'm not that which is saying I'm not feeling good, nor am I that says I'm feeling good. Yeah, okay. So now I'm not so determined by not good, good. Now, you know, you're starting to get relief that's inherently available from the seesaw of all this. Yeah, you don't have to go to a class for that. It's right where you are at all times. We believe we stop somewhere. Wherever you stop, question. You don't even have to question. If you don't like self-inquiry, don't do it. Just, you're still there. Yeah. Inquiring or not. That's why, you know, you meet somebody and maybe they entertain a possibility for you that let's say the lens can go farther back. That's all it is. Yeah. It's very mentally, the comfortability of the mental state is to say, okay, that's that. I've seen it. Yeah. When it's never a stagnant thing. It's always, yeah, yeah. See what happened? All right, I'm going to share with you as an observation. Yeah, don't believe anything I freaking say with this. But first time I went to a satsang, went in and I liked the space already. Didn't matter what the person was saying. And then I raised my hand and I just made an observation. I said, man, I came in here and I was checking my emotional state, my physical state, yes, my mental state. But now, hearing the satsang, I realized it was a mental state that was checking a mental state, an emotional state, physical state. I assumed it was me because it had named something else as a mental state. I didn't know the mental state could hide itself by calling something else a mental state. So then just the satsang, my aperture opened up more and I saw, wait a minute, Jesus Christ, you know, it was a mental state claiming to be me seeing all the other states. Okay, it was pretty cool. So I walked around for a couple of months, read some books, and I kept catching the same thief. So something would expand, and then there would be a subtle claiming of that expansion, and then the self would now be going, I saw the self, yeah? He's finally, but it was selfing, yes? In a way, not selfing, it was this claiming. Okay, this happened about 7 times, and then it was like 100th monkey syndrome. Something got it and said, Jesus, this is going to arise at any point that's available, and then claim to be the one that's seeing from that point. All right, my little tribe got it. Ding! So I haven't needed 800 more examples. 7 did it. I saw it claim 7 apertures of the lens. I imagine it would arise and try to claim 800 openings of the aperture. Yeah? But now I saw it instead of looking from it. Yeah? So all I needed was to see these examples, and my mind expanded and realized, oh, that's always going to happen. Yeah? It's always going to arise and stake a claim and say, I'm seeing all of this. Yeah? But what I am is always behind it. It's always preceded by what I am. And that's in front of the camera can never get behind the camera, because the behind the camera is always there. So this always says it's there, but it can never get behind the camera, because the camera always expands out. And this is always in the content. It's always in what's front of the camera. So this that's saying it's the seer can never get prior to the seeing. And in the story, we think the seer is the seeing, but it's not. The seeing, sees the seer. And it's bogus. That's it. I don't know how many talks it will take, but if it's going to take anything, which it doesn't take anything, but if it is, you're going to have a point where there'll be 51% of the stock will go onto the winning side, and then that majority vote yeller will be a minority. And it will be telling you to turn left, and you'll very rarely turn left. And it will tell you go this, and you'll very rarely ever follow its fucking course. Yet it will keep providing its course and its critique and everything else, But it won't be a determining factor anymore. Yes. Then you'll feel like with talks, you'll feel like a hose, and you get enlivened by the water that moves through you, Has nothing to do with you. You're not the water bearer or anything like that. Water comes through. You start sensing things in such a lovely way because they don't open up to much claiming. Yes? You don't take a position, therefore you won't lose a position. I don't believe I've achieved anything, so I'm not afraid of losing anything. Yes, it just works really well. And then you can report back and let other people know. And if you can get the sense of this, let's call it raw minds logic, you'll like that tune a whole lot better than the other tune we're following. The other tune is just golden oldies about our mythical Paul, and no one will buy them. We're the only one that listens to them. Like, people are bored stiff hearing about you and what's not happening. They are. They want something from you, so they feign interest. But basically, they're fucking to hear. Jesus Christ.